Hi, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. I am Matthew Silverman, the director of the Haberman Institute for Jewish Studies, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to our conversation this evening with the members of Trio Sefardi, Susan Gaeta, Tina Chansey, and Howard Bass, who will be discussing their performance, Nona Kanta, The Remarkable Life of Flory Jagoda. I'm sure you all enjoyed the program film as much as I did and look forward to hearing from the performers. We extend our gratitude to Andrew R. Ammerman for sponsoring our 2025 lecture series. Andrew dedicates the learning in loving memory of Josephine and H. Max Ammerman and Stephen C. Ammerman. Sponsoring lectures is a meaningful way to honor or remember a loved one, or to mark a significant occasion such as a yard site, a personal or professional achievement, or a milestone celebration. Your sponsorship donations, along with contributions at all levels, enable us to continue offering most of our lectures free of charge and to subsidize the cost of paid programs for those who cannot afford them. For more information on how to get involved, feel free to send me an email or visit our website. As always, you will be able to submit your questions via the Q&A button on your Zoom screen. Kindly keep them concise and incomplete sentences. We will address them at the end of the initial conversation, though please go ahead and submit them at any point during the presentation. This lecture will be recorded and available on our website in the next few days. Thank you to our friends at the Weizmann National Museum of American Jewish History and the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum for helping bring this program to our community. We appreciate your support. And now it is my pleasure to welcome Zachary Levine, the Director of Curatorial Affairs Division at the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum. Welcome, Zachary.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome everybody in the seminar. I'm Zachary Paul Levine. I'm the Director of Curatorial Affairs in the David M. Rubenstein National Institute for Holocaust Documentation at the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum. The Rubenstein Institute in the museum is responsible for strengthening, preserving, and making accessible the collection of record of the Holocaust in the United States, one of the world's foremost collections of materials and documentation on the Holocaust. On behalf of the museum, I would like to thank the Haberman Institute for Jewish Studies for sponsoring this program, and to the Trio Sefardi for sharing the stage with me. The museum acquires, preserves, and makes accessible to scholars, educators, and the public in the United States and globally artifacts, documents, photographs, films, music, and oral testimonies that document the events of the Holocaust and further understanding of its relevance in our time. This work supports our exhibitions and our programs, online resources such as the Holocaust Encyclopedia, Encyclopedia of Camps and Ghettos, and our collection search, where you can explore hundreds of thousands of documents, photographs, films, oral testimonies, and more, and of course, help the museum, all of which helps the museum's mission to memorialize the victims and the survivors. Tonight's program, Nona Kanta, The Remarkable Life of Flory Jagoda, presented by Susan Gaeta, Tina Chansey, and Howard Bass of the ensemble Trio Sefardi, was conceived and developed by the Trio Sefardi, and it highlights the life of this wonderful Bosnian-born Sephardic singer and composer, Flory Altarak Jagoda. Flory's story, like so many documented in the museum's collections, is both devastating and miraculous. Born Flory Papo in 1923 in Bosnia to a family of musicians that traced its lineage back to medieval Spain, she spent her childhood amidst a diverse community of Jews, Muslims, Catholics, and Greek Orthodox in the small town of Vlasenica. Shortly after the invasion and occupation of Yugoslavia by Nazi Germany, she and her family escaped first to Split, which was occupied by the Italian army. But Flory traveled there alone on the train from Zagreb, famously serenading passengers and the train staff as she played her harmonique for the entire journey, and they all sang along. After a few days on her own in Split, her parents joined her, and the family were interned subsequently on a nearby island until 1943, when they escaped to Allied-occupied Italy and to safety, just as Nazi Germany was invading and occupying Split. It was only after the war's end did Flory learn that Vlassenika's 60 Jews, including 42 family members of her family, had been rounded up by the Ustasha, tortured, and murdered in a ravine outside their village on May 6, 1942. Flory moved to the United States in 1946 with her new husband, an American GI, Sergeant Harry Jagoda, first to his hometown of Youngstown, Ohio, and then a year later to Washington, D.C. Here, she imbibed the culture of art and culture. Uh, the story, of course, does not end with Flory's arrival to Washington. She devoted the rest of her life to the music, language, food, and culture of Sephardic Jews, both those from Yugoslavia and their heritage centuries before. For more than 50 years, and in spite of the unfathomable destruction of Sephardic communities and their heritage in the Holocaust, Flory was a force in helping to preserve this culture so that we can learn about it and embrace it today. To that point, relevant to this program is the museum's collection of materials that help tell the story of the Sephardic and Ladino-speaking Jews in Southeastern Europe, including from Greece, Bulgaria, Yugoslavia, and the rest of the Balkans, all of whom suffered discrimination, displacement, persecution, and destruction in the Holocaust. One example includes the research archive of Professor Chaim Vidal Safia, a leading authority on Ladino and Sephardic culture and folkways. And that this collection includes Ladino songbooks and commercial recordings of Balkan Sephardic repertoire. Other examples include field recordings recently acquired from the archives of the National Library of France and that were all made shortly after the war, featuring Sephardic folk singers survivors singing traditional songs from their Balkan Jewish communities. And of course, you can look up Flory on our collection search, see pictures, and hear an interview with her. Documenting the evidence of the Holocaust has never been more important for preserving the memory of the victims and the survivors for future generations, and in particular for the time when so few survivors and eyewitnesses are with us to speak for themselves. Now please welcome the Trio Sefardi. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Howard Bass. I'm one of the three members of Trio Sefardi. I want to just quickly thank a few people before we get into our discussion about our relationship with Flory and the making of the video that I hope most of you, or maybe all of you, had a chance to see. Thank you to the Haberman Institute for making the video possible to a wide audience. Especially thank you to Rebecca Newman-Levy. Thanks to the Holocaust Museum for their ongoing support of our program for now over several years. In particular, thank you to Jaime Mañor, who has had a lot of faith in this program, and we are deeply grateful to him for that. And thank you, Zachary Levine, for your introduction. I want to thank the Weitzman Institute and the Center for Cultural Vibrancy, in particular Dan Samuels from the museum, and John Lohman from the Center for Cultural Vibrancy for providing the funding to make this video documentation possible. Ellen Friedland and Kurt Fazell made a documentary called Flory's Flame, and they very generously allowed us to use a significant portion of the interview with Flory in our piece, Nona, Kanta. Thanks to Charlie Pilzer of Tonal Park Studio in Tacoma Park, Maryland, who recorded and videoed the production of La Nona Kanta. And lastly, thank you all for tuning in. We're glad you're here, and we hope you'll ask questions, make comments, and we'll try our best to answer them. All three of us have had a fairly long history with Flory. For some of us, at least for me, dating back to the late 1980s. We want to talk a bit about that and how we met Flory and how we worked with her over the last 15 or 20 years of her performing career. The trio itself was established in 2010. All three of us had worked together in various contexts over a good many years. And so this is our 15th anniversary. We were very pleased to have made it this far, to our mid-teens, and our hope is to keep going for as long as we can in the years to come. So how did we meet Flory? What did our work with Flory mean to us, and why did we decide to make this video, which was actually designed and has been largely presented as a live performance. The video was something of an afterthought when Dan Samuels from the Weitzman Museum approached us and asked if we would be willing to put it on, to record it and keep it for posterity. So, but we have mostly performed it in a live audience context, with live music and live video and live people watching the program. So I'm going to ask Susan to start. Susan will tell you about how she met Flory, yeah, and how her work has been affected, how her life has been affected by her work with Flory. Susan.
Thanks, Howard, and welcome everyone. I met Flory in the 90s, like mid-90s. I actually met her through her daughter, Flory Jagoda Lowell. And Flory and I formed a group with a third woman, Betsy Carey, called The Colors of the Flame, where Flory started to teach me a little bit of her mother's music. And then I actually met Flory when there was a concert honoring her in Washington, D.C., where all of her students came to perform for her. And her children would accompany her. And they had asked me to sing her parts with them and do a medley of her music and present it as a surprise to her. She was in the audience just receiving and enjoying all of these pieces that her students were performing for her. So it was it was an interesting way to meet Flory, a little stressful, but afterwards she said to me, "You've got to keep singing this music." And we connected after that and started to work together. So when Flory became a National Heritage Fellow in 2002, at that time, John Lohman was directing a program in the Virginia Foundation for the Humanities called the Master Apprenticeship Program, where a master artist will take on an apprentice and study for a year together to pass on their art. And so Flory was invited. It was the very first year of the program. Flory was invited to participate, and she asked me to be her apprentice. So in 2002 was when I began, or 2003, when I began working more seriously with Flory. And we finished our formal work together, but it was always ongoing for many years to come, studying, practicing. In 2005, I recorded a CD, and Flory is a guest on that CD, the first recording. And we went on to play as a duo for quite a while. And we would do workshops, concerts, travel to a variety of places in the world and in the United States. And I got to really know Flory over all that time, in a very profound way. We traveled together, we stayed together, we rehearsed. And it was really an exciting time. And then when, well, Howard will probably tell you a little bit about his experience with Flory, but at some point Howard came in to working with her and learning her parts and learning how she accompanied herself on the guitar. She was a wonderful guitarist and played the harmonico, the accordion, as well. And we became a trio, the Flory Jagoda Trio. So Howard and Flory and I traveled for quite a bit. And into a historical visit back to Vlasenica, her village, to see where she grew up. There's so many stories. One that stands out the most for me is that I took a trip with her to trace her steps from Zagreb to Split to Korčula, where she was an intern before crossing the sea and to go to Italy. And I got to trace those steps with her 70 years later. And it was pretty profound. And Howard and I also had a chance to perform in Sarajevo, where we went back to Vlasenica and we went to the mass grave of her family and said Kaddish, where she put a stone. So there's so much to say. Until Flory's at the very end of her life, where it was more difficult to visit with her or to see her, I would FaceTime her on Sunday afternoon with her aide and sing her songs, and she would sing with me. So yeah, I guess that's a lot to say about my experience with Flory. So thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Susan. Tina, tell us your story.
Well, my story is not as dramatic, but I was playing with a group called the Folger Consort, which was an ensemble in residence in the Folger Library. And Folger Consort did a real variety of various types of early and traditional music, and they were doing Sephardic music. And so we finished a concert, and a nice-looking old lady came over and said, "That's my music. Would you like to learn more about it?" And my husband Scott and Scott was a member of the consort, I was a guest, but we both said absolutely. And so we started working with her. And at that point, Howard and Susan were regular performers with her. So Scott and we played along when we could, because we were also in a group called Hesperus, which took a lot of our time. So, but I'm terrible with dates, so I can't tell you what happened when. But the nice thing about playing Sephardic music, I'm Ashkenazi, I'm not Sephardic, as we all are, but it's a wonderful thing to help keep a tradition alive. And it really gives me a sense of purpose that I don't think I would have. I do many things which are important to me, but this is not only important to me. Howard has just moved up to Massachusetts, and Susan and I are still in the Washington, D.C. area, but he's going to spend a lot of time driving back and forth, I'm afraid, because there's a lot still to do.
Okay, thanks, Tina. My first interaction with Flory was through a group that I was a member of that I helped start called La Rondinella. And it was a group that Tina joined after a year or so after we started. We were an early music group, but we also did Sephardic music. And Flory came to one of our first public concerts. And just like Tina said, after the concert, she came up to us. I knew who she was. I don't think we did any of her songs, but we were definitely doing some Sephardic songs. And she said, that was great. Would you like to learn some of my songs? And of course, immediately we said yes. And the four of us in the group, we met with her several times and we learned half a dozen or so songs, which we later recorded, and we did some performing with Flory as well. In the mid or late 90s, I don't know exactly when, Flory had a stroke. She almost completely recovered, but the one thing that didn't come back as well as she wanted was the use of her hands. And she had been a really terrific guitarist. So one day I got a call from her, and she said, Howardiko, she had a nickname for everybody. I was Howardiko, Tina was Tinitze, Susan for a while was Apprenticita. And she said, Howardiko, would you like to learn my guitar parts? And I immediately said yes. And I would say, there have been several turning points in my musical life, but that was definitely a big one for me. It's really, as Tina was suggesting earlier, it's really incredible to be able to work directly with a tradition bearer, somebody for whom this musical style, the language, the culture it's bred in the bone. And for us, it was an incredible privilege. And for me, to work directly with her was, it was, in a way, it was like going back to my early years when I was studying classical guitar, where I'd go to a teacher every week and I'd play what I'd prepared, and he would criticize me or correct me. With Flory, she was very exacting. She wanted the guitar parts to be exactly the way she taught them to me. At some point, she said, "Okay, you've learned the notes. Now I want you to put something of yourself into it." And I thought she meant I should start improvising. That wasn't what she meant. She meant from your heart. That was really what she was after. And she had had this long history of performing on her own, playing guitar, playing the accordion. And she would sometimes say, "Well, you know, the best time for me was when I could just pick up my guitar and go perform somewhere." And I would think, "Oh my gosh, I'm not making it. I'm not getting there with what she wants." Then came a time when she said to me, "Now you're breathing with me. Now you're breathing with me." And that's when I knew that it had worked. Something had sparked, and I was doing what she really wanted from me. And it was an amazing experience to be with her, to hear her stories, to see her interact with individuals, with people, with her audiences. She had a real gift for sort of embracing an audience and drawing them into her world. And to be sitting next to her on stage and seeing that was a truly extraordinary revelation for me as a musician. So we are out there performing her music. It's not all we do. I like to say, we are not a Flory Jagoda cover band. We do like to play her music. We love the songs. We've never gotten tired of playing the songs that she taught to us and thinking about how she came to make these songs or remember these songs or compose them anew. And we do other Sephardic music as well from other sources. But in many ways, the backbone of what we do as a group is the music we do with Flory. So at some point, after 2015 or so, 2016, 2017, the idea came to us to create this piece, this interactive, this multimedia piece that you've seen, to do it in front of a live audience with the video and other elements that we added, and to hear Flory's voice and to sing her songs. It was really Tina who put this together, and I'm just going to ask her to speak for a bit about how this project came together and how it's worked for the audiences, not to mention for the tech people that have helped us.
I wrote some things down because I wanted to be sure of the dates. And by the way, Howard, I hear your dinner being prepared. Perhaps you want to close a few doors.
Door is closed.
Oh, okay. So this basically happened, La Nona Kanta, which means grandmother sings. It happened because of Flory's Flame, which Howard mentioned in passing before, which was created by Gemglow, Kurt Fiesel and Ellen Friedland. And in order to do that, they filmed a concert of Flory's 90th birthday that happened at the Library of Congress in 2013 and made that the kind of centerpiece of their recorded interviews. And they called it Flory's Flame. It came out in 2014. And so Flory was 90. And, she was getting up there, and it was pretty clear that Flory's live concert days were coming to an end, though Susan, she kept going until about she was 94, right? And had
She was 92, 93, in her early 90s.
yeah. But so we knew that after a while we wouldn't be playing with her anymore, but we wanted to present her story and her music even if she couldn't be performing with us. So we were talking about it, and in 2018 we got permission from Gemglow to use some of their interview footage from Flory's Flame. And I have been known to do this before, so I wrote a script. And the script that started by telling the history of the Sephardic Jews in general, and then Flory's family in particular, from their arrival in Vlasnica to their escape from the Nazis and Flory's development as a Sephardic song superstar. And it was a combination of these interviews that Flory did on film, and then us talking live and playing live those songs that either Flory had written or she had taught to us. And then I added some additional pictures, which her family provided, some maps, 2 little animation sequences, and song translations. And so we kicked it around for a while, and it worked out. And in 2023, we made a recording of our live part of the show and integrated it with the pre-recorded part already, so that the whole thing could be presented in a recorded fashion if we weren't there. So this is about the biggest audience I think that we've presented that a totally recorded version to. Most of the time we are there, and the poor stage manager has the job of starting and stopping the recorded portions according to the cues that we give them when we talk and play. But it's, I don't know, it seems to work well. And the responses we've gotten are good. This version is the totally recorded version. It's I look forward to seeing it again. Actually, I haven't seen it for a while. Yeah. But we figure that any way of keeping Flory's story, before the public is a good thing.
Thank you, Tina. Susan, why don't you talk a little bit about your Sing Her Songs project? I don't think you mentioned it earlier.
No, I didn't. Well, Flory became a master artist at Virginia Humanities when I was her apprentice. And then I am a master artist at Virginia Humanities. And I finished an apprenticeship with a young woman, Gina Sobel. I think you saw her in the film. And so the most important thing to Flory was to continue. And she talked with us about that. And we knew how important that was, to continue her music. So I feel like I am in a unique position to do that. I actually am a one-woman cover band for Flory. I do a lot of solo work where I just tell her story and sing her songs to preserve and continue that story, as the artist I am with Virginia Humanities and in general. So I was thinking, how do we continue her music most effectively? And I would love to work with people and teach them. But I was thinking how I can do that in a more expansive way. So I've developed a program on my website called Sing Her Songs, Sharing Flory Jagoda's Music in Your Community, where I have 10 teaching videos. Many of them begin with a clip of Flory performing the piece so that you can hear it from the source, a more authentic version of how I learned it. And then I am teaching the music with guitar chords going across the screen and Ladino words going across the bottom. And Tina developed sheet music that you can then download with translations. And there's a lot of information about the program and about doing her work. So it's a free program. And I just recently did a presentation at the Women Cantors Network conference to several women cantors throughout the country and in the world, to encourage them if they are interested in singing in their congregations and teaching the music. But anybody can learn these songs. They're basic. Many of them have maybe 3 chords. And it's a program that I think is really worthwhile to look at. I encourage you to check it out. And I'm hoping to expand it as I can get more funding to create more videos. I figure this is a way to really continue Flory's work and Flory's music.
Thanks, Susan. We would love to answer any questions that folks might have or hear comments. Tina, yes? Unmute
One
yourself.
thing I wanted to make sure we did was just to say a little about the instruments, because I don't think that anything was explained. And the interesting thing that I did was I played an instrument called the viola da gamba. And that was the thing that looked like a cello, but it had too many strings. So as we play Sephardic music, it's very hard to know how old it was. That when people say that something is ancient, they could mean it was last century or could mean it was last week. So in this particular situation, viola da gamba is what I play, and I brought it to the repertoire, and it sounds good. So we're not making a kind of a historical statement by that as much as saying that we like the way that it works with guitars. And Howard also plays lute, and we have some Arabic percussion as well. So the viola da gamba, then it's a cousin of the violin family. It's a leg fiddle as opposed to an arm fiddle, which is the violin family. And it has 6 strings, it has frets, and it's like a boat. So thank you. Just had to say that.
Yeah, Tina uses a bunch of several other instruments in many of our programs besides the viola da gamba, which you can hear on our recordings and see on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. We have now 5 recordings out, and they are available, and the best thing to do would be to go to our website, which is triosefardi.com, to see what's available and to learn more about Flory and Sephardic culture and history. All the songs that we've recorded, you can click on a link with the title of the song. You can go to a page that will give you side by side Ladino and English, and whatever I knew or thought I knew about a given song, I put in the notes. So we welcome, if you're interested in learning more about the trio, please go to our website. And if you want to be on our mailing list, you can send me an email. My email address is on our website.
Excuse me, Howard. I just want to say
yes.
that the Sing Her Songs program is on my personal website called, it's just my name, susangalleta.com.
Thanks. I am looking at questions. The first one is, are you going to speak specifically about any of the songs' history, why selected in the film? That's a really good question. And I think Tina can address it perhaps better than we can, but we know the repertoire. We know Flory's repertoire, and we know her story. And the short answer to that question is we picked songs that from her repertoire, many of them her original compositions, that fit with the story. So when we in the video, for example, there's the scene, if you will, where her father tells her, "You were going to go on the train. You're going to split. Friends there sent us tickets. You're going to take off the Jewish star. You're going to take nothing except your harmoniku, and you're going to play, and you're going to go to Split, and then we'll come as soon as we can, your mother and I. So at that point in the program, we do the song that she composed called Svirai Harmoniku. Play your harmonic, play your accordion. And that's what she did. She says in the song, she says, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why I'm running. Why am I running away? I've left my dear mother and my dear father. Why is this happening? I don't know. I just play my accordion and sing my songs. And that's essentially, as she would say to us later, she attributed her life to her accordion. The fact that she could sit there, a little Jewish girl playing the accordion, but not with the star on. She says the conductor came in and he didn't even ask for my ticket. He just sat down and started singing. So the songs were very specifically selected to illustrate points in the story. That's just one example. Another one I'll just say quickly and ask Tina or Susan to weigh in if they'd like. Arvoliko. It comes near the end of the program. She went back to Sarajevo in the 1950s, early 1960s with her husband, and they found the place where the massacre happened, where her family was killed, murdered. And there on the site was a small tree, Arvoliko, a small tree. And so that song fit the story perfectly. So that's another one of her original compositions. Susan, Tina, any additions?
Well, I know that Flory wrote the lyrics to Svirai Harmoniku in Serbo-Croatian years ago, I think during her experience, but she made the arrangement and added the music much later, because that was one of the songs I learned a little bit later with Flory when she made that arrangement. And then other songs just really fit the story. Spalato de Noche, that's the song about Split, when she goes to Split. We just tried to pick the songs that were really reflective of what was happening in the film.
One of my favorites was the one that we chose for when she was playing in the harmoniku in the train compartment. And people still sing it now, actually. It's folk song and it's in Serbo-Croatian. And all the songs that she sang were in Serbo-Croatian. So they were folk songs that everybody knew. But I don't think she sang anything in Ladino, because that would have...
train, no, definitely not on the train.
On the train.
Word of Ladino, of course.
Yeah. By the way, I wanted to make it clear that when Flory came to the States, she didn't perform or write music for how many years? 25, 30, something?
Well, it wasn't until her parents passed away, because her mother wouldn't speak a word of Ladino or sing. Her parents, she could never speak Ladino again after the loss of her family. So,
Right.
So I think she was in her late 40s, maybe late 40s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, her kids were grown up. And the first thing she wrote was Ocho Candelicas, right?
Yes, for her grandchild. Yeah.
So she had a full career from, I think, the time she was 60 to the time she was 90. It's a 30-year career.
Are any of Flory's descendants still involved in performing her music and helping others to learn it? I would have to say no. But when Flory started getting known, especially originally in the DC area, the first concert she did, and something that continued for a number of years, was performing with 3 of her children. and they performed extensively in the United States, and they went to Spain, and they went back to former Yugoslavia. But at this point, no. Her son Elliot passed away several years ago. Her daughter Betty Jagoda Murphy, has performed with us on occasion. But no, the short answer to that is no.
But Betty is a tremendous supporter of Trio Sefardi, incredible supporter, and I've encouraged her to join us. And Betty and I did a duo once, and
Yeah.
I think we were in Missoula, Montana. We did something where Flory was unable to attend. I think she was ill, so Betty sang along with me, and so yeah, she is involved in support, and of course we invite her to join us sometimes.
Is La Rondinella still playing Sephardic music, or are you the only group left? First part, no. La Rondinella disbanded around the year 2000, and that was the point at which I started performing a lot with Flory, and then with Susan as well. Are we the only group left? Well, I'm not sure what the intent of that question is, but there are a lot of people performing Sephardic music, including a good many people whose genetic heritage, if you will, whose cultural heritage is Sephardic. As Tina said earlier, we are Ashkenazi, all three of us. Although I would say that Flory, when you start working with Flory, you become a member of the family. So we are maybe honorary Sephardim. There are a good many people, really wonderful performers, wonderful groups, soloists, ensembles of many kinds, who are regularly performing this music. I would say that we are probably as far as I know, we're the only group that is regularly including Flory's music in our public programs and on our recordings. I think other people know her songs and I'm sure include some of them in their performances, but I would suggest maybe just going to YouTube and put Sephardic songs in or something in the search bar, and you'll be overwhelmed. It's interesting to me because really, as an old friend of mine said once, you're a niche group. You're a niche group, and that's true. But and really, I mean, you think about the vast population of our world, and you think about the Jewish place in that population. It's rather small, and you think of the Sephardic segment of the Jewish segment of the world population. It's even smaller. But that said, there's a lot happening, including some singers who are writing their own songs, new songs in Ladino. So a little searching is recommended.
So much in a curriculum of some college, right?
Sorry, what was that?
Ladino in a curriculum of.
Oh, right. The University of Washington. Devin Narr started a Sephardic Studies program at the University of Washington. That's the only one I can think of right off the top of my head. There probably are others.
I think there are others. Gloria Asher was teaching and also, of course, in Tel Aviv, there's Ladino programs.
Does your website have music arranged with choral parts? No. There are at least a couple of choral arrangements of Flory's songs. Ocho Candelitas and Hamisha Asar are two we've performed with choirs.
Yes. Brass ensemble.
Yeah. So, and Tina actually has done some arranging. We've performed in Washington Revels. We'll be doing that again in December, and some of the arrangements Flory's songs for larger groups are in that, but they're not on our website. As Susan mentioned, Sing Her Songs. That's a good place to start, and I would say a good, competent choral arranger can make arrangements of these songs fairly readily. They're very singable. Typically, the chord structures are quite simple. I like to say there's only one song Flory ever taught us with more than 3 chords, and there are plenty with just 2 chords. All right, moving along. Does your group plan to tour in the Southwest U.S.? We'd love to see you in Tucson.
We'd love to choose one.
We'd love to come to Tucson. We were in the Southwest about a little over a year ago, spring of 2024. We performed in El Paso and Las Cruces. And I did try to expand the tour to Arizona and more in New Mexico, but at that time wasn't able to. So feel free to invite us. We're likely to show up.
It's true.
Did we get Susan's website is susangaeta.com? Right, Susan? So that's a good place to find the sing her songs, and the scores are there, yeah, for downloading. susangaeta.com.
Also see all of our programs on our website, including what we did do when we were in El Paso and Las Cruces was an artist in residency weekend, where we spend an entire weekend with a congregation, and we can participate in the service, do a concert or La Nona Kanta. We've done workshops for the tour school with children, families. So there's a lot of interesting programs that you can see on the Trio Sefardi website.
Okay, is Elena Jagoda related to Flory?
No.
Jagoda is actually it's a fairly common Eastern European name, maybe not even strictly speaking a Jewish name. It can mean berry, a berry, an edible berry. It can mean strawberry specifically. It depends
Jagoda.
on what country the name comes from. But the old guy who played for the New York Mets, Darryl Strawberry, was not originally Darryl Jagoda, as far as I know.
Thanks.
I thought you'd want to know that. Can the name or link to the program, to that program Susan mentioned, I assume that means Sing Her Songs, be put in the chat?
I think somebody just did.
Okay.
Yes.
This says, are you going to make a DVD of the video? If so, how to obtain? We do not have any plans to do that. Tina?
We could do it live. Yeah.
Yeah. We really conceived of and I think prefer to do it as a live program. It just has more immediacy, and it's making a DVD. I mean, we made this video that you saw. It's really it's not even a documentary. It's just a way to document the performance of this piece. We didn't really intend it to be shown to the public, but we have obviously now we have had it shown a couple of times, and
Not so bad.
it seems to work. I'm going to read this if you don't mind. Not a question, but a comment which you may repeat if you wish. About 10 to 15 years ago, I was visiting Paris and went to the Jewish Museum there. In a separate museum, they had a lovely display of Hanukkot menorahs. Imagine my amazement when the background music in that little room all of a sudden aired Flory singing her famous Ocho Candelicas. From Maryland to Paris, just to hear Flory's wonderful voice from Virginia.
Ah, that's nice.
Another question here is, does Ramon Tassat still perform Flory's music? I think the answer is yes.
And his own? Yeah.
And Flory and Ramon performed together. Uh, we performed in a tribute concert to Flory a few years ago in Alexandria, Virginia. Ramon was part of that show, and we all did some singing together. So yes, I think that's the answer.
Flory also recorded, there's one recording of hers that she did with Ramon. And Flory and Ramon and I did a concert together in Istanbul several years ago.
Thank you.
I am not seeing other questions. There are a couple of other comments.
Mm-hmm.
Toda Rava for keeping Flory's music alive. I miss her so much. Rebecca Kaufman.
Mm.
I just wanted you to know how much I appreciated the opportunity to watch the film and especially to listen to the music. It is extremely important that everyone is exposed to this. I'm not sure who wrote this. It says, "Thanks for remembering me, Susan. Now I teach Ladino on Zoom. Thank you all for this presentation full of beauty and heart, worthy of Flory. Muchas gracias. Abrazos."
One thing we should talk about what Susan and I just did last week, which we went to a reception at the Capitol, the U.S. Capitol, where there was a pop-up exhibit about the Sephardic Jews. And we played some background music, and there were many welcomes and speeches and stuff by all sorts of congressmen and senators who were supporting this project of having these backup exhibits around the country. And I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah. They also were celebrating the 70,000 people, I believe, who have gotten residency of Spain since they
Sephardic
for Sephardic Jews to identify their heritage to get residency in Spain. Yeah, it was really interesting.
So, which gives me an opportunity to mention Lori Shen. In May, Susan and I performed with Lori Shen at the Spanish Cultural Center in Washington, D.C. The ambassador was there, very enthusiastic about the program. Lori is from Izmir, Turkey, which was one of the communities where the Sephardim settled after the expulsion after 1492 when they were expelled from Spain. And her family traces their history back to the 16th century. So she was able to obtain Spanish citizenship, so she's now a dual citizen of Spain and of Turkey. And her specialty and her doctoral dissertation topic was on classical settings of Sephardic songs. There are a number of composers over the last century or so, composers whose genres are more in the classical realm, have set Sephardic songs using guitar, piano, maybe some ensembles, but mainly guitar or piano. And in that program with Lori, we performed 3 or 4 songs where we did the classical setting side by side with our more traditional approach, if you will, to the same song. It was a really interesting way to demonstrate how this music has been kept alive. So thank you for giving us a chance to talk a bit about Lori, who is on the voice faculty at Peabody in Baltimore and at Shenandoah University in Winchester, Virginia. Let's see. I think that's probably about the end.
One more question. Actually, it's a comment from Aviva.
Go ahead.
Thank you to the 3 of you for the skillful and compelling presentation. Oh, yeah. You have truly honored Flory for all these years, and we are all better for the way you continue and care for her legacy. Well, you too, you know.
This is Aviva Chernik, who did did study with Flory as more or less part of the Master Apprentice program, right, Susan?
Right. Aviva was an apprentice to Flory, and beautiful singer, beautiful person. Thank you for tuning in, Aviva.
Howard,
From
who,
Toronto, Canada.
yes, but who else has just responded was Susanna Behar.
Ah,
Behar, and I just met her a few weeks ago at Library of Congress. She says, I'm happy to see the three of you and hear more about the making of the film. I really enjoyed watching the film, learning more about Flory, and listening to some songs I had not heard before. Nice. I'm sure it must be a very engaging experience to bring their program to life. Keep up your very valuable work, and you too, Susanna.
yeah. We when I was mentioning that you could go to YouTube and hear Sephardic singing from many sources, I would definitely recommend Susanna Behar. She is wonderful. We loved her performance. Very different from what we do. Very different, with a fabulous percussionist and an amazing guitarist. That just shows the creativity that is going into keeping this repertoire in front of the public. So definitely check out Susanna Behar, Behar.
And there's Matt.
Hello, Matt.
Hi. Yes, there's so many wonderful words of appreciation for your sharing the stories of Flory and your own personal connections. I think so many just they keep popping up, so it's really wonderful. And I also don't know if you noticed, but there was also some hearts emojis that were floating by on the screen. So um, as we conclude, I just wanted to say thank you again to the three of you for this truly engaging session and sharing Flory's and your beautiful music. And one of the goals of the Haberman Institute is really to share and hear voices that of our Jewish tradition. And it's really wonderful that we got to share these Sephardic voices with our community, and hopefully you'll continue to get to share those voices, in the communities around the country and world. And we at the Haberman Institute are happy to partner again, or if there's any ways in which we can be supportive of continuing to spread her story and voice. We're happy to be part of that. So thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep. And also thank you all out there. We look forward to seeing you again soon. So stay connected with us, and have a great rest of your night. Take care.